In following the Toronto Raptors since their inception, and Smitty and I have both done that, the one thing that we know is that since Masai Ujiri has come to Toronto, I don't recall a single leak from the organization regarding any move that they have made, not at the draft, not with trades. This has sort of been, Smitty, Masai Ujiri's mantra has been, we're not going to let anybody know what we're doing or what we're thinking. And I think most of us in the Toronto media have sort of stopped trying to speculate on what he might be willing to do. Is first of all, is that accurate?
Yeah, he and Bobby Webster are very stealth. They don't leak stuff to favored reporters. They don't put stuff out there to float it. They go about their business at their pace, and they did it with Kawhi Leonard, which came up in about a 3-day period, I think, the DeMar DeRozan trade. They even did it with Marc Gasol the February after when they traded Valanciunas and DeLon Wright for him. But yeah, so this is a modus operandi, which is fine, as long as we all understand that any speculation is coming from other places. So I think, as Howard and I have written and know this forever, any leak that gets out there, you got to understand who benefits from it to figure out where it's come from.
Well, let's start with the question. Do we think this is real? Howard?
Do I think what is real specifically?
Well, the speculation about Durant in Toronto.
I think that until we hear otherwise, given the value of Kevin Durant, given the way he can instantly change a franchise's trajectory or lift them from plausible contender to actual contender, and all throughout, the standings there, the ripple effects, everything's plausible, everything's possible. Nothing should be ruled out. I mean, if you said that, there was a rumor of Kevin Durant to the Orlando Magic, I might question the validity of it. But there's a bunch of teams that are obvious, logical trade partners who have the incentive and the ability to get it done. The Raptors are at or near the top of the list. We shouldn't rule them out unless somebody tells us, what, there's just no way they'll do it. And given what we know of Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster, as you guys were just discussing, I don't think they'd ever rule that out, would you?
No, they know you don't get that many shots. You don't get a chance to even investigate a trade for a top 5 player in the league very often. And if you don't do it, you're doing your franchise a disservice. You have to investigate it. You have to weigh the cost and weigh the cost benefit and what you got to give up to what you're going to get. But to dismiss it out of hand is folly, because that's cheating yourself and your franchise.
I want to start with you, Doug, and then we'll go to Howard. By the way, Howard, I mean, Banchero and Jalen Suggs for Durant. How dare you not give the Magic their love? So, Doug, I want to, if you are, and I agree with you, I've, in reading you, you've written this and it's totally accurate. Like, you have to do your due diligence and check in. If not, you're not doing your job as a general manager or a president of a franchise, essentially what you have to do. So let's sort of, as every NBA podcast loves to do, let's sort of play it out a little bit. Realistically, on the Raptor side, what do you think in terms of assets they would give up? And then realistically, let's sort of take the Nets side. Realistically, what would the Nets accept to pull off Durant? Bob and I were talking before the air. We don't believe Scotty Barnes would ever be dealt. I don't think this trade will happen, but I think he's off the table. But maybe I'm, smitten by everything I've been reading about Scotty for the last year and a half. So, and then Howard, if you can follow Doug, because you're in Brooklyn, you probably might see the analysis differently.
Well, I think obviously that the Raptors would prefer not to trade Scotty Barnes. The rookie of the year, he may have a 10, 12, 14-year career that's a brilliant one. Or he may bolt after 5 years as a free agent. So I think, personally, I'd put him on the table. Reluctantly at the end. A guy like Siakam and OG Anunoby, maybe. Gary Trent Jr. and OG Anunoby, maybe. A passel of picks. That's a given. You got to give up 4 or 5 picks and maybe 2 pick swaps. There's got to be other stuff in there. But as for players, the Raptors would not want to trade Scotty Barnes, but I think they absolutely should think about it if it comes down to that, because I want to trade proven for promise. And you have a proven top 5 player in the league today with 4 years left on his deal, Whether he lives them out or not is a different matter. Against the promise of a guy who may or may not stay for his entire career here.
So if you're looking at this through the lens of the Brooklyn Nets, Kevin Durant, 2-time Finals MVP, regular season MVP, 2-time champion, obviously, one of the greatest players in NBA history, not just one of the greatest players of his era, one of the greatest players ever to play the game, and has still played when he's played, and we can get back to this. He has played at an MVP type level over the last couple of seasons. Missed a lot of games, but when he plays, he's at an MVP level. Kevin Durant plus a solid roster is now a contender. The Raptors have a solid roster. What was suggested to me last week when this all first broke by somebody in the NBA was, and they teams that I think are plausible, that make sense, that have the right kind of offer to make, but still enough in reserve after they make that trade to have the requisite talent around Kevin Durant. Toronto, obviously, this is why we're talking about them. This is why they're near the top of the list, because frankly, the Raptors have done a phenomenal job of assembling really, really good players. What was suggested to me was 2 of the 4 are going. Now, if there's an A column and a B column, and you're picking one from A and one from B, or the Nets may say, no, we want 2 A's, and the Raptors may say, no, 2 B's, or we send you a B and a C. But the bottom line, as this person phrased it to me, was it should be 2 of their top 4. So whether that's Siakam and Van Vliet, Siakam and Anunoby, Scotty Barnes and Van Vliet, whatever. Some combination thereof, plus the requisite picks and swaps and whatever. If you are the Nets and Raptors discussing this, I don't think you start from a place of, well, we're not even having a discussion until Scotty Barnes is off the table. I don't think you go into it that way. I think probably the Raptors say, well, we don't want to put Scotty Barnes in this. And Sean Marks would come back with something to the effect of, well, if he's not in it, then we want X number more picks or swaps, right? Like that's how this goes. So, well, Scotty Barnes is in it. We're not sending you any picks. No. We want Scotty Barnes in it. Like that's how it'll go. It'll go back and forth. And eventually maybe the Raptors get to a point where they've thrown so much other good stuff in there that Marks backs off of the Scotty Barnes piece and says, you know what? You've given me enough other compensation. And maybe I got 3 of the other 4, probably not, because the Raptors need to hold enough back to have a team around Durant. But that's the way this goes, I think. I don't think it's from a starting point of this player, as great as he seems to be after one rookie season. We don't know anything after one rookie season for sure. There are no certainties in this league. And what the Raptors are actually going for, the point of this exercise, as it was with Kawhi a few years back, is, oh no, the one thing we know for sure is Kawhi plus that team was a contender. Kevin Durant plus this team is a contender. And as we know, you only get so many shots at a championship. As we know, the Raptors are more than willing to take even a 1-year gamble on that. And in this case, it's much less of a gamble because Durant's under contract, as we've been discussing, for 4 more years.